Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Breakthrough Brand podcast. I'm Elizabeth McCravey, and I have a treat for you today. I'm chatting with my friend Amber Housley about so many things that are not summed up in this episode title, but the main one being we're talking about her tips for building a mastermind and or membership community in your business, because Amber's done both really well. So all of this can be kind of applied to both, and we get specific on each one as well. Amber and I have known each other for years, and we'll actually talk in this episode about how we originally met, which is pretty fun. But I've worked with her through her programs, and she's worked with me through designing her website. So I designed her website about 2 years ago now, and it was such a fun project. And if you don't know her, then Amber is someone who I think you'll just love to know. And we dive in again to a bunch of different things in this episode. We'll talk a bit about Amber's story of starting her business and working in corporate life for a while before going full time. So if you're someone who's like in that full-time job right now, managing your business as a side hustle, I think you'll really enjoy that element of the conversation. And we talk about her membership and mastermind community and building those successfully and tips for that, which there's so many, about like 7 that she walks through. They're just incredible. And we also talk about motherhood and business and her tips for finding balance and ease in both raising children. Her oldest is 12 years old and running a business at the same time. So I really love her thoughts there. So a lot of juicy, fun stuff here. And I'm just going to stop talking and let that interview play. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Amber Housley. All right, Amber, a big welcome to the podcast. And I feel like this interview has been a long time coming because we've known each other for years now. And then I've had the pleasure of being in your programs, 2 of them that we'll talk about today, and attending Inspired Retreat. And then you worked with me for your website. We're both in Nashville. We've traveled together, and I've just learned so much from you over the years. And so it's fun to get to ask you questions I want to ask you, but then let other people listen.
I can't wait.
Yeah, so welcome. I'm really excited.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I think it's really fun because I think the podcast was an idea when we worked together years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, really, I do. Yeah. Of me being I don't know if I should even do this and feeling a lot of imposter syndrome.
And I'm like, do it. Yes. What's the name of it? What's it going to be?
Yes. No, that's so true. I forget about that being such a huge piece of it. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And I think it's fun too. I wasn't even thinking about sharing this originally, but I was thinking this morning about how we originally met. Do you remember how we met? Because I didn't at first, but then I was like, oh yeah.
Well, now you just said it. And I'm wondering, was it Business Boutique?
Yes. And see, okay. So to tell people, because I think it's a good lesson in why you should talk to people at events. But we both were attending Business Boutique. I saw you post on Instagram that you were there. And I was like, I think I follow, I saw you at the event. I was like, I think I follow her on Instagram. And then I messaged you and I was like, hey, we're both at this event. And you were like, hey, let's meet and talk. And that's how it all started. Yeah. So message people.
How fun. And then Amy was there, Amy Gabriel.
Yeah.
And then she also joined one of the programs too. So
yeah.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. I forgot that that's actually where it all began.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. So for people who don't already know you, if you'll share a little bit about who you are and who you help and all of that good stuff.
Absolutely. So, hello, Amber Housley here, marketing strategist and business coach. And really, my goal is to empower women business owners to create a life and business on their terms. Of course, that's all fueled by really smart strategy. We don't get by on just, winging it. And then, of course, sisterhood. So I do a variety of things, but I'm most known for my detailed, rich coaching programs, courses, and then live event experiences. So you kind of experienced all of those,
Yeah.
Elizabeth. So that's been really fun. And my goal is really to help other female business owners just up level and scale their business, whether they're at the beginning stages or they've reached kind of already their goals they've set for themselves and they want to take it to the next level. So my focus is really on smart and simplified marketing strategies and using a lot of my proven frameworks of success as I've grown as a business owner after doing this for almost 15 years now.
Yeah, it's so crazy how much experience in business you've had.
Well, you asked the questions and I started kind of making some notes for myself and I'm like, wow, I can't believe it's been 15 years.
I know. And I'm like, yeah, so Amber and I have notes, by the way, for everyone listening. Yeah. I'm like a notes. Amber is too. We were like, we're both like, we want the notes for podcasts. But yeah, like you started your first business in 2007, which feels like 1,000 years ago. And it's evolved so much. So I'd love for you to tell people like thinking about like that first business, what it was and what your life looked like then. And then I know you've worked in like corporate stuff since then too, and like all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I spent over a decade actually in the corporate world. So I did that for a long time. I was a marketing strategist and account executive at an agency. And I was directing a lot of campaigns for Las Vegas casinos and resorts, a lot of the products that you see on store shelves. And that actually is where I got the entrepreneurial bug. I always had done little things when I was younger, but that's when I started realizing as I was planning my own wedding, this is a very popular story of those in the wedding industry, is that you plan your own wedding and you're like, oh, I could keep doing this. I'd like to help others with it. And so as I started dabbling in entrepreneurship with some of those first businesses where I was doing blogging and graphic design, I was doing invitations and a little bit of wedding design, that's when I actually started to realize that my corporate career could totally fuel this other part of where I could support other business owners. And so I started working with a lot of other vendors in the wedding industry and was kind of just always sharing marketing tips and strategies that I knew that the big corporations used. And that's kind of where the first seed was planted on becoming a business coach that I am today, is just me starting to help and organically grow my business and dabbling in all of those different businesses. So I basically had small businesses growing on one side. I had my corporate career that was growing on one side. And at one time, I went and made the switch after a decade. And you can imagine like the traditional corporate setting, like cubicles and computers and desks working in the office. I started to, change my career a little bit. And I started to work at an e-commerce company that specialized actually in designing and bringing to market products for influencers online. So, it's very common. We have a lot of influencers out there who, build up these big followings and audiences, but they actually don't know the pieces and mechanics on how to bring a product to life and bring it to market, to actually manufacture, create it, market it, and all those things. And so I spent time there leading a whole marketing team, and we were working with really awesome influencers in the world like Brene Brown and Ali Edwards, A Beautiful Mess, some of those. And then eventually even that turned into me moving over to Cultivate What Matters, which is the shop that's really popular for the Power Sheets goal planners. And I spent several years there as director of marketing and helping with the brand, helping with marketing, helping with product development. So it actually wasn't until 2018 that I went quote unquote full time with my businesses.
See, and I don't think I realized it was 20. I know I knew at some point that it was 2018 for you just through like knowing you, but I like forgot that because that isn't like that long ago at all.
No.
And okay, a question with that I want to ask you, like before we get into because we're going to talk about like masterminds and memberships and all that, but like with that of working in corporate so long while building your business, did you like that? Like, cause some people, I feel like we get like online business, there's such a like, ew, corporate.
Of course.
And I think that is like, that was my experience a little bit in my job, but I think it's unnecessary, the amount of hate we give like corporate
100%.
America. Yeah. So I'm curious like what your what your experience was like.
Well, I even can admit that I had my own like complex with it where I didn't feel quite good enough. Like I wasn't quite legit in the entrepreneurial space because here I was over here having this corporate, stability. And but the crazy thing is now like looking back on it, it 100% fueled who I am today. Like there's no other way that I could have done it better because of the experience that it gave me. Like all of the things I learned in my corporate careers when I worked at the big agencies down to the e-commerce company to working, even with the Cultivate What Matters team, all of those gifts and learning that I, picked up along the way now helps me support all of these other business owners because now I have experience with, businesses that are just starting out to multi-million-dollar companies. Like I know how to market in both, because guess what, guys, the tactics and strategies, a lot of them are the same. You just have more money. Your budget's a little bit bigger to spend on ads and resources and things like that. But I mean, was it a challenge? Absolutely. But I thought about all of the benefits that it brought me, not just obviously stability and things like that to me growing my family, but I had a lot of freedom actually from it because, I wasn't so worried about, what my paycheck was going to be. I could invest in a lot of things that other people maybe had to bootstrap or DIY it for a really long time. Whereas I could afford to have a really great brand designed for me. I could afford like going to conferences and like, growing and learning, new things. And so, my money wasn't so tied now like to my salary, like my career was. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great like positive on like why corporate, because I think that what you said too about feeling shame, like you weren't a good enough entrepreneur. Like I've talked to people who feel that way of like, you're not legit until you're full time. So I love that perspective and advice.
I think we need to kick that to the curb. I think there was did you see the Squarespace commercial Super Bowl for Dolly Parton?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I saw some of it.
It was really cute, but it was like a whole dance Broadway type clip or whatever to 9 to 5, Dolly's, famous song, Working 9 to 5. And so in it though, it's talking about your side hustle and it's showing a lot of people working and doing this business on the side. And absolutely, I knew the end game plan I was going to leave, at some point and, go full time, quote unquote, full time. But I think it still works for a lot of people. And it worked for me for over a decade. I did that. Over a decade, I did.
It's so long too to think about doing it for that long. Cause most people, it's short. I didn't even have the opportunity to do it that way. Cause when I decided to like leave, I I left and it was just like, there wasn't even done. Yeah, that's just the way it ended up working out. But I think it's cool that was your experience that you can like speak into that.
Well, and I think I had a lot of privilege though, too. I mean, the fact that I had, companies that were accommodating. I mean, I know that's not available to every career field and people who work corporate, but I was able to do business outside of work, or I had really great relationships with those companies where I was very transparent about what I was doing and how this, fueled me on other levels, and they were supportive of it. I know that's not available to everyone, but I feel very grateful that I had that opportunity.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. Let's talk about masterminds and membership stuff. So, okay. You have a lot of offers in your business. So to first like get everyone on the same page, like let's talk about what your main things are and kind of what they look like right now. And then Amber has a bunch of amazing tips for creating and running like a successful membership or mastermind. Because again, you've done both and I've done both of them with you too. So I also can like, in thinking about your tips, I can like think of like, okay, yes, I've seen that in action, but what are the programs and things like you're mainly offering?
Absolutely. So the Blooming Business Inner Circle is my main offering. You could say all roads lead to Blooming Business Inner Circle. So I have a variety of different courses that I teach on, say, creating your marketing plan. That's my Flourish product. I have Fresh Squeeze Social that teaches you how to do a social media strategy. So I have these other smaller offers, but the goal is if you want my support and you want the opportunity to work with me and have that, group coaching experience, that's where the Blooming Business Inner Circle comes into play. And I can share more about what's included in that. But the next level offerings from that would be Inspired Retreat, which is the 4-day retreat. You kind of mentioned it earlier. That I've been doing that for for almost 10 years now. I was like talking the other day and I couldn't believe it. We're doing our 14th retreat later
That's
this month.
crazy.
I know,
Yeah.
14. So that's Inspired Retreat. And then the Coterie Mastermind is kind of my highest tier product. And that's an opportunity to work in both a group and a one-to-one coaching environment. And it's for businesses that have, already proven offers, proven audiences, and really they're at a point they want to scale. They want to add a new product maybe to their lineup, and they want that one-to-one strategy experience with me.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about the tips you have. So thinking about for people listening who are like, I would love to start a membership or a mastermind. Because then we talked about that there's a lot of overlap between like the strategies of both, even though they are different like offerings. What's your first like big tip you'd give someone who is thinking, I want to start that in my own business?
Absolutely. So the first thing I'll tell you is to be a member of one yourself. In fact, I would even say multiple ones, right? I have, I said earlier, I'm a lifelong learner, and exploring a lot of different memberships and coaching experiences, masterminds. I mean, that is what I think has been a lot of key to my success, is because now I know a lot of different approaches. I know a lot of different ways of doing the same thing, but in like different formalities, you could say. And so it's from that I was really able to kind of cherry pick what I enjoyed in this program, what I liked over here, and kind of brought that on to create my own new opportunity. I mean, that's actually how Inspired Retreat started too, is that I went around to all these conferences and retreats and workshops, and I'd say, oh, I like the way they do that, but I don't like that. I like this, I like that. And so Inspired Retreat was created because I was like, nothing exists like this. So I'm going to take the best of, what's around, and here I'm going to put it over here. And so I think that's what's made my, the Inner Circle membership and Mastermind, the Coterie Mastermind so successful, is because I've tried so many on for size myself.
Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. Yeah. I was gonna say too, with you applying that to Inspired Retreat, like that makes sense for anything we want to sell in our business. I felt that with creating a course right now of like, I needed to like see courses, and I've actually enjoyed with being pregnant, taking courses from this like completely different market. Yes. It's like, there's people who are like crushing it and their business is courses on birth. And it's like, you do stuff so differently than like business courses. So there's like so much to learn of like, oh, I like this, I don't like that. And yeah, it's just something like, being a member and paying attention to what you like and dislike.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us the second tip.
Absolutely. So I think having some sort of framework or path, plan, a course to follow, anything that helps bring structure and formality to it, and having some sort of focus of, what are you exactly doing here? Like, what are we all trying to accomplish with our time together? And so like having that focus and that goal, right, is one step. But I think there's also a formality and structure that needs to happen in the way that you deliver things to your students or your customers. And so, it's actually funny because you were in the very first Coterie Mastermind class that I did. And that experience you had, and I know it was worthwhile for you. You've told me that, so I'm not making that up. But that experience you had is totally different than the experience it is now, because I learn as I go. I'm like, oh, this works, this doesn't work. Like, how can I structure things, more to fit, even how I can teach and facilitate and coach better? How can the students and clients receive things better? And so it's an ongoing process, but I really figured out, especially when you asked me this question, I'm like, it's because we formalized things and made it really easy for people to have success, or really easy to find things. And it's an ongoing process. Like, actually within the inner circle, we have, kind of a big effort right now to make that even better. We're at the 2-year mark of when, since we've created it. And so we've learned a ton along the way. And so having a central place for all the members to find what they need, or, getting their calendar and their events, in advance so they could plan accordingly. Like, there's so many things that I found that I didn't do early on, or other programs I see where they just kind of fly by the seat of their pants, or they just kind of spring things on you. And we all lead really busy lives. And so having structure, having things scheduled in advance, having like an easy place to find things like of what you need, whether the course curriculum, or if they need to submit something for an audit, within a mastermind, whatever it is, like, I think it really helps, and it really contributes to onboarding new members in a better way. It helps with your member retention in your program, so they keep coming back. So nobody's lost. That's the whole goal here.
Yeah. So the organization of it all.
Yes.
And that's, I mean, it's fun for you to mention that, like, it's changed a lot since the first like rendition of it all, because that, I feel like that makes it also like less pressury of like, it doesn't have to be the final version and you can learn as you go. So like with the learning, would you say like some of the changes you've made, like, are from people's feedback, or from like you just being like, that didn't work as well? Or like what would you say are the biggest like keys you've paid attention to?
I think it's a combination of both, because I'm a big surveyor, love to get feedback within the Inner Circle program. When a member decides to cancel and they're done, with their journey with us, we have a pretty extensive form we have them complete to give us feedback, because I want to make sure that the next opportunity is, even better if they do decide to come back, which happens all the time. We have members leave and they come back, whatnot. And so, but I find it's more of my own value myself of always wanting to better things, that I'm constantly learning. Or, I said earlier, like, I'm a member of masterminds, I'm a member of other memberships. And so I'm constantly trying to find, other ways to just improve our experience, because I know if the experience is really great, then I know that my students are going to succeed. Like, they're going to, be able to have the success they need, because they can find everything easily.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And with that, so this is a funny question, but like, do you feel like you ever struggle to have your feelings hurt by people leaving?
Oh yeah. I get heartbroken.
How do you deal with that? Because that's something that I feel like could be like, as members, like you would be like, I sell templates. And so like, people aren't like, I've been heartbroken a few times when I see someone change templates or something. I'm like, oh, that's like sad. But like, how do you handle that?
I know. So there's a couple of things. It's a lot of self-talk, I would say. It's a lot of self-talk. I think I've learned that from coaching, from therapy, whatever, right? And I remember one coach or mentor told me, because I go right to the sad part, like, oh, this is so painful. What are they doing? Did they find something better? Whatever. And she told me, she's like, Amber, I really would love for you to ask yourself, what's the best possible version of the story that I can tell myself right now? And so the best possible thing that I can tell myself, which is probably the truth, is she's ready for something else, which is totally okay. Like, I've met her needs. Like, she's satisfied. She's ready to go on to something else. And that's okay. Her focus is going elsewhere. And, maybe one day she'll come back and that will be great. And I will welcome her with open arms. And so, it's like, it's kind of more of like talking your ego down from it. Absolutely. That happens all the time.
Okay. I love that question too. Like, what's the best possible reason? That's like, yeah, that's helpful.
Let's flip the script.
Yeah, that's one of the like vulnerable aspects, I feel like, of selling anything. It's like the rejection in that way. So, okay, I love that advice.
It does make it sweeter when they come back.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
They see shiny objects, which I do too, right? I've been there, I've been in their shoes. And so they go off path and then they come back and they're like, oh yeah, I realized that wasn't worth it. Like I should have just stayed focused. I actually say that a lot. That's like actually another key point I would say is telling your customers, your clients, your students what you want them to know. Like, how do you really want them to think? And so I think when you go and point out to your clients or your students and saying, hey, like your whole goal here is not to consume everything. Your goal in the inner circle, because the Blooming Business Inner Circle has coaching calls, co-working sessions. It has hot seats at night, like from the sisters, the community. There's courses. There's the monthly guidebooks that come in the mail. There's a lot in the inner circle. And yeah, absolutely. If a sister did all of those things, which there are that do that, they do have tremendous success, 100%. When they go all in on one program, and I tell them, I'm like, unfollow all the other people that are trying to sell you something right now and just make the most of your investment right now. But I also like to speak into them and say, your goal is like not an all or nothing in this program. And I'd rather you like focus on like one thing that's really important to you and forget about the rest. Like, let the pressure off. We have some people in the inner circle who the only reason why they're in it is maybe for networking or to come to the live event, which we finally get to do this year here in Nashville. Fingers
that
crossed.
one last year was really fun.
Yeah.
Was that last year? Or it was the year before.
Yeah, because COVID canceled. So Bloom and Grow Live. And so I'm like, you would get your return on investment by just coming to that one event. You could leave everything else and not even worry and feel the pressure or that scarcity mindset of, oh no, I'm missing out. I'm not keeping up with this. I need to leave. I'd rather you say, no, like just focus on one thing that's going to help you find success.
Yes, I agree. And I think that's so important to communicate with memberships, with courses, all that. I'm in another membership that's like a life coaching one that's really similar in the sense of like, there's so much there and it can make you, if you don't have that like voice of the person in charge telling you, hey, it's okay that you're not doing everything, it can feel like, should I even pay for this if I'm not participating in all of it? So I love that all or nothing. Like making sure people know it's not that. And okay, with that question though, thinking about mastermind specifically, like if it's someone who like, say this person has a mastermind, it's like 10 people, how do you deal then with people not participating? Because in a membership, like you have over 100 people in yours. So it's like, if one person like paid for it and they're not active, it doesn't really affect the overall group. But what do you do if someone like for a mastermind not being
active? Well, it's really great because when you're asking me these questions, that was another point that I came up with. Like this pairs perfect with it. It's that understanding that you are not responsible for other people's success. You actually aren't. And that was a lesson I had to learn after coaching for so many years, because I would feel that pain. I'd be like, why aren't they showing up? Why aren't they doing it? Like, why aren't you like, they paid a lot, like, for my strategy and my coaching, and they're not using it. And it makes me feel bad. Right. And so realizing that I'm not there to babysit their investment. Like that is their goal. And maybe they aren't ready to do the work right now, but they're going to be ready in a couple weeks or in a month, or maybe they just needed one thing from you. Right. And so I always kind of remind myself, I'm not there to babysit anyone's investment, and I'm there ready to do the work when they're ready to do the work. That idea of having students that are really coachable, right? And I like to go and tell my students, I like to set that tone at the very beginning where I'm like, hey, like I'm going to help you, like I'm going to put you on the right path. I'm going to show you how to walk up the steps to the house, to go to the front door, but I can't walk through the door for you. Like you're actually the one that has to actually walk through the door and make the choice to, implement what we're talking about, or actually do the work that's required. I can't do that work for you. And I know that as long as I have prepared on my end, all of the tools, the resources, I've equipped them in the best way so they can have the best experience. That takes a lot of pressure off of me as a coach, because I'm like, it's up to you now to show up to your part of the bargain here.
Yeah. And that's so, yeah, I get it. I feel like all these tips apply to so many things, because you can feel that same pressure. Like I felt that with the course I'm making of like, I'm like, please like do it, because that's where you'll have the results and like show up for the calls and that sort of thing. But yeah, knowing you're not responsible for their success. And I remember too, with your mastermind, I feel like you did a good job in the beginning of and the whole time, but especially in the beginning of communicating to us, I want you to participate. Here's how. And so like we did have a really active like Facebook group and things like that, which like I think was super helpful. But it does feel like, yeah, you can run into people not participating and that being hard.
And you know what? It's always going to be an evolving situation, honestly, is what I'll say. His situation sounds kind of funny. But right when you said that to me just now about how that Facebook group being really active, I'm noticing a change in behavior from people. Like Facebook groups aren't as active anymore as they would have been a couple of years ago. Like I can even see that in the groups that I'm in, like where I'm a member of a mastermind or a membership or things like that. And so people are just consuming things in different ways now. And so it's up to me now as the creator of these programs to find new solutions and new ways to reach people. And so, for example, in the latest Coterie Mastermind with this group, it's a smaller group, and the Facebook group is hardly active at all. It actually only becomes like a repository because I do a lot of audits, which has become like a really great teaching opportunity. So I have the ladies submitting things every week of sales pages and email copy or whatever it is, new website designs. And I'm, doing recorded audits of those things and then posting it in the group, and they're using that as a learning tool. But very few people are having open discussions in it because they're all busy with other things, and they just reach out to me directly on Voxer. And so our kind of coaching almost takes place on a completely different platform. Yeah. And so like that's kind of happening over in the Coterie space, and then over in the inner circle space, I'm like exploring new things that we want to roll out here in the next couple of months of delivering our content in different ways, like in audio form or in coaching calls. So there's like a lot of things I'm experimenting in because I want to reach people in the best way that they can receive it. And the old ways I might have done things may not fit anymore.
Oh, that's such good advice. Also, I love the audio idea for content. But yeah, that's a great point. Like when I was in your mastermind, I don't even think Voxer was like a thing people were using.
No,
at least not the way they are now.
We used it. No way. No, it's really crazy. In the same way, like I over in Voxer in the mastermind, we have an announcement thread where the only goal is me going out there and posting announcements of today's a coaching call or happy Monday, submit your audits. Like it becomes like another broadcasting tool, like similar to what an email would have done before. But emails will just get buried in inboxes, right?
Yeah.
So
there's so much evolving we have to do in those ways. I love that.
And it kind of came out because you were talking about courses a minute ago, is when I created our last course. It's called Bloom into Business Camp. It's like the foundational course within the Inner Circle program now. As I was creating the content, I was like, you know what? These don't need slides. I just need the students to complete the workbook. Why do a whole video and this whole thing when really I just need to walk them through the workbook to like actually get to work, because that's how I like to teach, right? Let's just take action, right? And so I started doing audio files. So most of that course is actually all audio. And then some of it obviously has been transcribed to make it available to those where audio is not going to work for them and they want to read. So that's kind of where that's coming into play over in the Inner Circle, is that we're working towards where I will actually be reading the Growing Guide workbooks every month. So then instead of reading it, they get it physically in the mail and they love that. But now I'm going to have another opportunity where I'm going to go and read it myself because it's written by me, like it's my words, right? So now I have my voice, so then someone could listen to it instead and then do the exercises rather than sitting down and reading it. Kind of getting over that hump of, oh no, I have to read a whole workbook. Like, let me make time. Whereas my women are on the go, they're in their cars, they can just listen to it wherever they want.
Yeah. And that's where I've seen so many people do like private podcasting
that's the plan.
Yeah. I'm in a couple programs that all have private podcasts, and I love that. Yeah. And it's like with the course example, like you don't, just because the like standard way we've been taught in online business, it has to be some slides or maybe your face or mix your face with some slides. It's like, yeah, it doesn't have to be the way. I've experienced so much of that working on this, of like, how do I want this to be? And to me, everyone's different learning styles, because I'm an audio learner. Like that's why I love podcasts. So I'm like, when I take courses, I don't watch the slides. I play it from my Kajabi app. If it's like a Kajabi course or whatever, app teachable, all of them, and just listen. So yeah. Okay. I love that one. Okay. So I know you have, I think like 2 or so more tips. Let's go to the next one.
Awesome. Well, this like plays perfectly into this, what we were just talking about, is knowing your own personal strengths and weaknesses, and then getting support wherever you need it. So I love to coach. I was a consultant for many years for other businesses, but like moving into the coaching space, I like to give feedback, but then I really love to teach. Like that's like where it goes. And so in the Coterie Mastermind before, it was leaning heavily on coaching, a lot of Q&A, a lot of like one-to-one support, but I felt like there wasn't enough room for teaching. And so now, because that is a strength that I have, is now that program has a teaching component to it. So every coaching call we get on, actually the first 3/4 of it is me teaching. Like I have slides, I'm teaching things in real time that I'm learning in programs or I'm implementing in real time that are more advanced strategies. We're going through it together. We're discussing it together, having our own like masterminding on that particular topic. And then we'll get into actual like, hot seat traditional style coaching. But I found when I incorporated that element into it, because that's my strength, I feel so much more satisfied actually delivering the program. Like it has me show up in a better way as well.
Yeah. And like, how do you feel like it's just the experience of doing the different things that helped you figure out that that's what you liked, or is there other things?
I think it's the experience of being in other programs. I think actually, I would tell you right now, if you want to create your own mastermind or membership, do not do it until you've been in one. Like I can't even imagine what it would be like if you've only been in one and you think that's like the only way to do things. I think it's really important that you go and sample different things and different investment points. Like the Inner Circle is currently it's a $197 a month program. It's not your $40 membership, right? That you might see advertised in. And there's reasons for it because there's so much value and there's so much other things that are happening versus a smaller membership. But you wouldn't know that until you went out and started trying all the flavors, right? And experimenting.
Yeah. And with like courses and masterminds too, there's such a wide variety. I mean, you can buy like $40,000 masterminds and more like, $3,000 ones. Like it's such a wide scope. I love that though, figuring out your style there. And I feel like I don't know what my favorite way of all that is yet.
I know. Well, when you go to
stuff, but
when you go to create one, you're going to draw on all of those experiences and kind of think. I was thinking earlier about how like you do absolutely have to have a servant heart for wanting to do a coaching program, a mastermind or membership, because you're really putting yourself out there and you really want to see people succeed. Like I really don't think you can go into it because it's a money motivation. Like that doesn't motivate me. I mean, like that's obviously nice. I want to support my family and have, a nice, lifestyle, but I'm going into it because like I have a heart to see these women succeed and to like have them reach their goals. Right. A lot of people will tell me I'm crazy because I leave money on the table because I don't offer the Coterie Mastermind. That's a higher investment program that would be, wonderful cash to have year round. Right. But I choose not to do it because I don't want to sacrifice myself in seasons where I'm going to be stretched thin as a mom or as a friend. Like our summer season, like that's when we're traveling a lot. I'm juggling a lot of balls. The kids are out of school, right? We want to make the most of that season together. And if I also was responsible for these other businesses and coaching over here, I'd feel like really stress and anxiety. Like I've felt that way before when I have run that program during the summertime where I feel like, I'm letting everyone down, and I'm probably not. I don't get that feedback, but I'm not. But I feel that pain. Like, oh, I could be doing more, but I can't. Right.
Yeah, I remember hearing you talk about that before because it's like, if it doesn't allow you to take like time off from being like on all the time and having things on your schedule and work. But I mean, that's so true about having the desire to help people succeed versus just like, it's not like a quick money win doing something like any of this that we're talking about.
That's it. Like everyone's like, I want reoccurring revenue. That is great. However, there are reoccurring expenses that come with these programs too.
And commitment.
Commitment. Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting thing too, a difference between products and masterminds and memberships. Like products like, a website template or digital product and things is you have to like show up in those different ways. Like I know you have, I think there's a working session today in the Coterie, which I don't know if you'll go to that or not, but like the stuff like that, it's like, it's always on the calendar that you have to have the time commitment of.
Well, you see, and you feel a little pressure. And I'm an Enneagram 7, and like, I see that and I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm like locked into these dates. there's no flexibility there because, over 100 and whatever, 50 women are like depending on that same event. There's not movement of those things. But you know what? It's good for me. Like, I think that especially with the Inner Circle program, like that really was the perfect container for what I wanted to do, for being able to teach, to constantly create new content, because I'm always learning new things that I want to share, to be able to coach in a grouping one, to be able to do the physical experiences that do, because there's a mailing element to it. Everybody receives workbooks in the mail with a party favor, to do the live event. Like, it really was the perfect container and a way to create structure to it as well. Because now, 2 years later, like, we have really great systems now. We have systems, we can plan things in advance, and it's gotten easier now. I can say at the 2-year mark now, like, we've got it down to a science. We did not have it down to a science the first year and a half. Like, we were constantly building, trying to fine tune things, and it was a big labor of love. But this was the perfect container for what I wanted to do and to make an impact. And it's one that's going to be able to grow a lot more and scale, and have, more women that come into it. But it's funny because I have 2 other close friends in the industry who started, the same type of membership, like an Inner Circle, very similar frameworks and systems to it, who started at the same time as me and decided it wasn't for them. Like, it didn't fit their lifestyle. It didn't fit their creativity or fit the way that they wanted to do and deliver. And so they eventually closed them. So it's very interesting. Everyone just sees those memberships and those things from the outside, and they're like, that's easy. I can do it. She did it. And I just want to say, like, it's a lot of work, and you have to make sure that it's going to fit really like what you want to bring to the table or what's kind of on your heart to serve people with.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a great point that people stop the thing all the time when it doesn't line up right. Yeah. I love these tips. So do you have any before we move on? Because I do want to ask you a few questions relating to you having been a mom we were just talking about how your son is 12 now and you have a daughter as well. Crazy. But do you have any other thoughts before we get to that about the mastermind?
One more that I thought that's an important thing that has kind of set us apart is the human element to it. So when I say human element, I think of like just the way that we deliver things and the way that we have personal reach with all of our people is what's made our programs different than others out there. From when a member joins in the onboarding experience, they get a call from Jordan, our concierge, and Jordan, her because she had been in the coterie as well. Yeah. So Jordan is our concierge here at Amber Housley and in the Inner Circle too. And she was a former student. She had attended retreats. She had gone through all of the programs, the coterie, everything. And so when she decided to take a break from her business, I brought her on the team. And she's a wealth of knowledge because she's been on their side. She's been in their shoes. So she understands from a student perspective. So that's like a fun little side tip, I'd say, is whenever you can hire or bring someone onto your team that is a student that has already experienced your programs and knows you inside and out, your brand, that is like the best thing that you could possibly do.
Yes.
Really big help. And people rave about it because they get a phone call with Jordan to like set them up on how to get the most out of their Inner Circle experience. They can reach out to her for a strategy call. She knows every piece of content and courses that we have available, so she can tell them exactly, how to find their solution. She leads some of our calls. So she's actually leading the co-working call that's coming up here in a little bit. But that human element, that's what people are craving. Like, that's the people who join my programs. They're tired of doing business alone. They're tired of just feeling like they don't have family or friends that get what they do or someone to ask questions with. And so truly they come into our community and it feels like a sisterhood. And that to me has made all the difference. They're not just another number, just another like face in the crowd. Like I know our members very well. I know their businesses. I interact with them online. I'm not this like removed coach from all of my people.
Yeah. No, that's so true. The human element is so important. And I do feel like in all types of offers right now, people are craving that especially.
Absolutely. Like, they don't want to just like DIY, like be all alone, like figuring this out on themselves. Like, they're not going to get there as fast as if they had it with a community alongside them.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. Yeah.
I love that. Well, these have been amazing tips.
Yeah.
You get me excited about like creating new offers, just talking through all this. Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to ask you too. And we talked about this a little bit, but you're a mom of 2, you have a boy and a girl, and you've been a mom for 12 years. Yes. And also, like we've said, you've worked in corporate, you've run your business for a long time as well. Like, what are some tips you have for being present as a business owner and showing up for the women in your community, and also being present as a parent.
Yeah, so good. So good. I think the first thing is reminding myself I'm not going to do any of this perfectly. Like always telling myself that we are so hard on ourselves about getting everything right. And I think it's like me kind of managing my own expectations. And sometimes things just need to be good enough. I found a lot, especially with my first, child, Colin, my son. He was like a good training not kid, that sounds really funny, but really as a first time mom, like you don't know what you're doing at all, right? Everybody will give you the best of advice, but you've got to like just figure it out on your own. And so I like to think when Kayla came along years later, I did it a little bit better with her because I learned how to manage things, but mostly it was because I was trying so much with Colin for perfection. I was trying to be the perfect mom, perfect business owner, the perfect, leader at the office, all these things. And like, I can't do it perfectly. So knowing that, but also like relieving myself of the guilt and pressure that I have to manage my kids' experiences in life. So what happens is that we think that we have to protect them. Like that's our natural instinct, right? And they always have to be happy. Everything has to go right. Like, am I giving them enough attention? Am I neglecting them through my business or whatever it may be? And realizing that's like not actually my job to control their experience. Everyone's going to grow up with something, right? We all have our own childhood things that we have to get over what we realize as an adult, and that's going to happen to them too. And I need to stop like trying to like make sure that experience is a lot more easier for them.
Yeah. No, that's a great one. Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I know. And I think I've told you this before, but I feel like through like, as you know, I'm pregnant now, but like, and people listening know that, but I've had so many experiences now with you and other women older than me who are business owners and parents of kids that are a lot older. And I feel like I picked up so many like little things through like watching you guys that I'm now like thinking about and applying. So it's just, yeah, it's fun hearing that reminder.
Well, I think with that same thing about not doing it all perfectly is I think the first time I was trying to do it all perfectly and I was trying to do everything myself too. Yeah. That was another big like kind of shift. And so when we made the shift in our family of like, we have a shared Google Calendar. When the kids have a soccer game, like it's on my calendar. I'm sending invites to my husband for his calendar. Like we have like our calendars are full of all of the family stuff of like bus pickups and ninja practice and like whatever track practice. It's on both of our calendars. It's not just me managing all of that in my head and me trying to like take care of everything because I feel like I have to do it all, right? So when we split up those responsibilities and have that shared, pickup and homework and life things, right? Like it made it so much easier. And I know that is a privilege. Not everyone has that, especially if they're a single parent. I totally understand that. But just like having that structure and organization of having things on calendars and seeing that, going and planning my year, like when I go and do our marketing plan, this is like kind of a cornerstone of the Flourish marketing plan framework is to like look at every month for the upcoming year and put over in one box everything that you have going on in life. Vacations, birthdays, Christmas, like the obvious things, right? And then what you want to do in your business and see if that lines up, like, because we can't be having these huge expectations for our business when in reality, like our life isn't going to support that.
Yes. I love planning the business and life together because they're not separate in the way it's all set up.
Yeah. I mean, that's how that summertime I told you earlier, like I can't do the Coterie Mastermind in the summertime. Like I feel torn. Like it's not possible when my life is so heavy during those months, like heavy in a good way. Like it's full of lots of good things going on. So I can't be also feeling stretched and pulled in these other ways. But then that helps me as a business owner see, okay, then where else in the year am I offering this program? Or where, how does that fit with my promotional calendars, my marketing and things like that to make sure that things can work a little bit more on autopilot during those 2 months. So I think that will be helpful for you too. Coming up.
Yeah. Well, I felt so much clarity this year setting goals because my year feels shorter for one, but I'm like, because I'm thinking of like, planning maternity leave starting like mid-August, but I feel like that's been helpful even of like, I've gotten more clarity on goals of like simplified it because of feeling like I have other commitments now besides my business. It can be like a good thing in that regard of like more distinct goals.
Yeah. And you'll find too, your business is going to totally evolve alongside your life. It will. Like I think about my life stages. Like when I first had Colin 12 years ago, I was doing weddings. I was doing wedding planning. I was working full time, but I was doing lots of beautiful luxury weddings. But guess what? That took me away from home on Saturdays. It was okay actually when he was a baby. There was nothing going on like at home. But as he grew up, right, things changed. I found it was actually a lot easier for me to travel when each of the kids were younger. Like I could leave because babies and toddlers and like smaller kids, they don't do a lot, right? Like they can be babysat or contained, whatever. But now that they're older, it's harder for me to travel now because I'm missing out on a lot of more things, right? So it's kind of a different, I know that when they are both teenagers and grown up, my life is going to look probably a lot more freedom, right? So it's like this weird, not weird, it's like this nice, like evolving thing that's happening, and just knowing and like being open to that in my business of it's just going to keep changing and evolving. It doesn't always have to stay the same.
Yeah, I love that. That's all great advice for everyone who's a mom out there. Okay. I have some rapid fire questions for you. And then I want you to tell everyone all the wonderful ways they can like see all your amazing stuff. So, okay. First question, favorite product that makes your home feel cozy? Cause you're so good at like the home and life stuff. And I've been to your house multiple times. So it's beautiful. So, okay. Tell us the favorite.
Of course, fresh flowers. I was going to say that. But when they're not available, like I am a big, like go to the grocery store, like grab a bouquet if it's the off season, if they're not from my own yard. I love essential oil diffusers. Like I actually keep the recipes because I can't remember all of them, all those little drops, but I use Google Keep. Like that's like my favorite note taker. And so I have one for essential oil recipes, like here in my office. And so when I sit to start my day for work, I whip up a fun little blend and I just go in my Keep document to see a recipe. So I think that always just makes it cozy.
I love that. I need to do it like more recipes. I have my diffuser, like you can't see it on camera, but like literally right there.
Yeah, mine's here too.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, but I just put random stuff in. I never like do recipes. So maybe I need to get your recipes for that.
It's funny because on a recent call, so it was diffusing and it was like the smoke was coming across the screen and she was like, Amber, is there something on fire? Like, what's that smoke? I'm like, it's my diffuser. It's too close to the camera, the computer.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. They really do create a lot of. So like my office will literally become smoky when I have the door closed and it running. Yeah. Okay. I love that. Okay. Best tip for gardening. So for people who don't know, Amber's like a gardening pro as well. And like, you're so knowledgeable in gardening. So like for people who are like, right now it's springtime, who want to start a garden, what would your thoughts be?
Yeah. So I would ask yourself, what time do you have available to keep up with it? Like maintenance wise, because what you plant may be a little bit harder to like keep up with if you're a busy one or if you're like low maintenance people. There's some people who are really into it. Like I always say that I can tell a person's Enneagram type by what their garden looks like because there's certain like personalities that like Enneagram ones are really good gardeners. They actually are because they're very precise. They like to follow directions. Like their gardens are very immaculately kept. Whereas I'm an Enneagram 7 and you will see a lot of stuff in my garden. Like I'm like, let's try it all. Let's put as much, let's experiment. Let's just throw the seeds down in the box and like, then figure it out. Whereas an Enneagram 1 will be like very like precise in their measuring of things and things like that. So I don't know all the Enneagram types, how it is, but it's like pretty funny how it comes into play in your personality and giving yourself grace in that, like knowing like my garden is not going to ever look like so-and-so's garden. And like, that's okay because I like this full messiness of my garden.
Yeah, no, I love that. And we're planning to plant stuff like this weekend again.
Yeah.
I can see the Enneagram thing though, because my husband is a 3 and he's very like perfection-y about the garden.
Oh, yes.
And I'm a 6 and I'm a little bit more like, I don't know. I want to do it, but I can struggle with motivation a little.
I was thinking you're probably worried it's not going to work out, so you don't want to try, right?
Well, I was so pleasantly surprised, Amber, because like all of we thought everything was dead, like for good. Yeah. And I'm like, we're going to have to redo all of that. And so much of it came back and we're like watching it grow. I'm like, oh, it came back from last year. So
that's the best.
That's a good point.
My husband's a 3 too. He's also a 3 and he's like, you need to go cut those things back. Like those flowers are draping way too much over the sidewalk.
You're like, I don't care. It looks great.
Yeah. He wants that like real good, like nice image of like what the yard and lawn should look like. And so it's funny. My garden is actually on the like outside of our yard because it's like a little bit distance from the house. So it doesn't drive him crazy.
That's funny. I love that. Okay. Next question. Favorite activity that you like to do as a family with your kids?
Yes. Well, no surprise there. Maybe if you know me, we are campers. We're glampers, you would probably say. Most people would call us glampers because we have an RV, we have a trailer that we pull, we go camping, and we love exploring state parks and national parks. We camp all over Tennessee on the weekends. Like we're weekend warriors for sure.
Yes. I love that you do that with them.
Oh, it's so fun.
I grew up going to the river and doing
yes.
an RV for a little while. And it was like such a good, like, weekend experience with my dad that it was good bonding, way to get your kids away from like the everyday life stuff.
100%. And they whine. They're like, we want to be home. And I'm always like, in the wintertime, we'll be home. And sure enough, like this winter, they were like, when are we going to go camping? They're like ready to leave. But it's been fun. Like the camping thing has been, so much a part of our life the last couple of years, once the kids were kind of old enough, like babies camping. I never did that. I can imagine it would be super hard. But once like Kayla was around 3 or 4, it made it easier to go camping. But now that's like infused into like my business. Like actually, the latest course was called Bloom into Business Camp. And we got to do all these fun camping themes because I'm really into making all of our stuff fun and and have a different angle than just being a boring, business program.
Yeah. I love how you do that of infusing your personal life interest into like the branding of all your stuff. And on your website, we did that a lot. And yeah.
I get so many compliments for that website, Elizabeth.
I get compliments from it too. Like constantly. I feel like I love you. I know I have your website pulled up right now, actually, because I was like, am I going to need to reference it? But I love looking at it.
I do too.
It's such a fun project.
And that was that 2 years ago now?
I think it was. Yeah. Like
it's brand new.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, still, it's aging very well. So.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. Favorite business book?
Yeah, I had a hard time like thinking about this because I read a lot of them. So it's always like, what's the last one I read that I liked is usually what it is. And Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz, I think that's how you say that, was really good because it's all about knowing where your time is, where you spend it in your business, and making sure you're using like the right kind of mix up of your business. Like in order to be a really strong business and leader, you need to be spending your time on the right things and not the wrong things. Like always, telling other people what to do, all the delegating. You need to be more actually doing and working in your zone of genius. And so I love that. I've told many businesses that I've coached over the years, like I always go back to the exercise of, I think you really need to track your time for a week and find out actually where you spend it, because we all have this idea in our head of how long we think it takes to do things or where we're spending our time, but actually it's not the truth. And so getting it out of your head and tracking and putting it on paper was part of like the main elements of this book. And that's like one of my favorite exercises for you to like really transparently see what's working and not working in your business.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm all about the time tracking. I need to finish the book though. I haven't finished it, but
Me too.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm loving it though. And then similar to a lot of business books are like this, but they have a lot of work you need to do.
Yes.
And I get paused on the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like waiting to do the steps, but I read the first few chapters of it so far and I've loved it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. Okay. This has been awesome, Amber. I love this conversation. Okay. Tell everyone the best places to connect with you. I know Instagram is a good one, and tell them about your offers and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Amber Housley on all the platforms. So look for me and I will be there. I show up very regularly on Instagram stories, showing a lot of the behind the scenes of my everyday. You can learn more about my inner circle at amberhousley.com/inner circle. And then one of my favorite things that people come in, through the front door of Amber Housley, on the digital space, is actually through our Sweet Life notepad planner. I have this really great, super adorable desktop planner. It's a notepad where you can plan out in kind of a little bit more strategic way your business and life for the week. And so you can go to amberhousley.com/planner and you can actually get it for free. You just pay shipping and we get it out to you in a couple of days. It has a great little training and some fun bonuses to go along with it, but it's a big crowd pleaser right now.
Yeah. Yes. I love that so much. Okay. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Amber, for sharing so many great tips in this one. I think everyone's going to walk away feeling like they can start a mastermind or membership and like have the steps there, and all the mom advice was really cool too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the podcast this week, friend. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I want to tell you about something. I would encourage you to check out my website template shop. Over on elizabethmccravey.com, you'll find Show It website templates, and they are easy to use, strategically designed, and created to help you book more clients and customers. Maybe your current website is really boring. I don't know, maybe it is, and maybe you don't want to hurt its feelings, but you know it's true. And your website needs to be strategically and intentionally designed in order for it to convert your viewers into raving customers. And that's what these website templates do on MShop. These are pre-made website templates built for the Show It platform where you can plug and play your content into the template with ease and then get started with a website that is made to actually make you money. Isn't that what we all want, right? So go shop the templates at elizabethmccravey.com/shop. That link is also in the show notes. And don't forget that you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening so that you never miss an episode. And I would so appreciate it if you left a rating and review for the show on Apple Podcasts, or even just share it with a friend. It's a great way to support the show and then give us your feedback. So thanks so much for listening.